Well, it's also a societal thing across races. All if you live in America, there is an expectation that you become your own man. They give a little bit more leeway to their daughters, but you got to go out and make it. And that's across races. I mean, maybe white parents send their kids out faster than black parents or Latinos. I don't know, but I think it's an American thing where it's from generally what I've read. People in Europe, which are other white people, feature and other cultures, they are allowed to stay much longer. I would have felt like a loser had I been 19 and still at home. What kind of man are you? You know what I mean? And so, of course, I went out and I fucked up, just like Mike was saying.
In Nigerian culture, it's pretty much the same. I'm thinking somebody will tell you to leave, but in Nigeria, especially like in my parents' village where they're from, it's not uncommon to see children living with their parents. Those houses take forever to pay off, and the system we have here in America isn't present everywhere either. When people have a house, it's not like it's financed 30 years. No, you had to build that house for your family over time with materials that you gathered over time. So you want as many generations to come up in that house and not have to go pay for anything elsewhere, right? And then usually when people get married, that's when they start wanting their own space for their own family. But they might not move out at that point. So when I think about what the issue is here in America, especially like with the African American community, I realize that there are a lot of factors that point to the family dynamics being screwed up, and it's a lot of reasons for that. The most common are like single motherhood, right? So mama's got to have a life too. That's what's associated with kicking out the kid. Mama got to have a life too. I've spent my greatest years on you, So that's one of the big things here in America going on. But on the opposite side, you could have had too stern of a father, right? So we had that fences story, right? So where it's just like, I'm gonna show you something, I'm gonna make a man out of you. I got it. This is actually a big one, actually. I see this one a lot in the South. I got it out the mud, so you go and go get it out the mud too, which is one of the stupidest ideologies
I
I've ever
agree.
heard. I'm a first generation American. My father laid in the mud so I could walk, laid in the mud, his whole body, so I only have to go knee deep. I was in the mud knee deep so my brother could walk over my back clean. And we built a bridge so all of our children never have to step in the mud again. That's the way it's supposed to work. So we have this really bad ideology where it's like, I got it out the mud and my son's gonna have to get it out the mud too. That's stupid. So even if the father was present, that ideology is also too present in the home, and it leads to them doing serious damage to their sons. But then we have another thing at play here too. We have some parents, some black parents, that don't really seek to kick their kids out at all. The kids are too focused on that personal freedom that I was talking about. You don't want to be under the micro, and this goes across all races in America and ethnic groups. The kids, like if you just think about it now, they just too grown. They want to be too grown too early, right? All you thinking about is your little boyfriend, your little girlfriend. I want my own apartment so we can walk around naked. They're way too grown. Yeah, they are way too grown. So, I'm actually telling my story, right? I went to college, and then my dad was like, "So you're moving back in the house?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Do you know the debauchery I've been doing for these next 4 years? You know how
Look at
you know,
Raul.
you know how many hotel rooms I'm gonna have to get a week for the frequency in which I in have this behavior." So I was like, "No, I'm getting my own apartment." That was like literally one of the worst decisions I could have ever made. I should have saved money. I should have did all that. It was very hard to, get my life started because I was spending too much, right? So, changing careers like this is not for me and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, I think those are the three things that play. You got the single motherhood, you got the super stern father, and then you have kids wanting to be too grown. And that's why we have this particular issue with family dynamics here in America.
Well, it's also a societal thing across races. All if you live in America, there is an expectation that you become your own man. They give a little bit more leeway to their daughters, but you got to go out and make it. And that's across races. I mean, maybe white parents send their kids out faster than black parents or Latinos. I don't know, but I think it's an American thing where it's from generally what I've read. People in Europe, which are other white people, feature and other cultures, they are allowed to stay much longer. I would have felt like a loser had I been 19 and still at home. What kind of man are you? You know what I mean? And so, of course, I went out and I fucked up, just like Mike was saying, but I had a great time and I still survived. And I don't want to sound like a boomer where it's, well, I did it so you can. I understand the situations are different. Um, but I think it's more of an American machoism, make yourself into who you're supposed to be on your own kind of mentality that permeates across racial barriers within America.
And to add to that, when I was 19, I remember calling my mom and crying and telling my mom, like, I had, I was supposed to be here and I was supposed to be doing this and I was supposed to be doing that. And I saw myself in this position or I saw myself in this situation and none of that has happened for me. And, I had a mom who's like, calm down, you are 19. But you do feel like a loser. You do feel like I should have left. But one of my favorite illustrations I've ever heard was people try to be like, okay, you graduated kindergarten, you did high school together, you did this, you did that together. So it should all be the same. It should all be unified. But we're not unified. We're not like pages of a book you flip. We're popcorn. Some popcorn pops early, some popcorn pops later. But at the end of the day, it's still popcorn and it's all still delicious. We just pop at different times, but there's nothing wrong with that.
So I wanted to say that while I'm thinking, the problem is not kicking, their kids out or allowing them to stay. Both could be wrong if you don't teach them the right thing. Because I've seen on the other side that you allow them to stay and they don't do anything with their life because they get too comfortable. And I've seen that, the other side where you kick them out, but you didn't teach them anything. Like my brother, for example, he's 25, 26, and he owns his house already. So, but he was staying in the house. He was working. He was studying. He graduated. He's an engineer, and he bought his house. But he was someone that was preaching something and practicing what he's preaching. Is my father. So if my dad was irresponsible with his financial situation, of course my brother would have seen this and he would just probably be doing anything, nothing with his life, which is what I see. And I heard some one time, if you want your kids to be standing on the ground, you got to put some responsibility over their shoulders. That's what I believe.